All right. Hi, and welcome to The Mind of a Skeptical Leftist, the podcast where I haven't come up with a permanent intro yet. My goal is to spread progressive thought and left-wing politics and critical thinking. So,
Yes.
my guest this week is Some Random Geek, also known as Jonathan.
Or Boba Fett for right now, because I am wearing a Boba Fett vest. For those of you who are listening to the podcast, you have to go to the YouTube channel of The Mind of the Skeptical Leftist to see the Boba Fett. Actually, it's actually pretty neat.
Yeah, that's
gotta
cool.
get to those YouTubes.
Yeah, that's where all the traffic is. That's the deal.
So yes, hello.
So the reason I wanted to get you on was to talk about how bullshit anarcho-capitalism is. But first, we better get to know you a little bit. So,
Sure.
Who is Some Random Geek?
Well, at the very beginning, the dinosaurs came, but they go too big and fat, so all turned to oil, and then the Arabs came. No, wait, that's a totally different story. Speak up to now. I grew up as a liberal who likes to play games, and Gamergate happened, and but then I was already far away from games and playing online poker at the time. But then 2 years later, I found out my young brother's a Gamergater. Oh, fuck. Wait a minute. I'm not crazy for thinking that Gamergate was awful, right? No, other people agree. Gamergate is awful. That's where I found YouTube feminists, like, as it were.
Cool.
Garrett was a big one. He blew the door open to all these small leftists, like feminist channels. And then feminism went to socialism. I think capitalism is bad because even if I go up the ladder, the people behind me are still behind me and have to work that job too. And that job sucks. I've been there before. Eventually, what's this anarchism thing? And then finally, the state is a course of a justifiable hierarchy. I'm guessing I'm an anarchist. And then I also came out as demi-non-binary because what's this gender thing? I think that's so. Yeah, so I also the other professional things is that, like, I'm also the co-host of Social Justice Alchemy. All because, like, my friend John Brockman, like, I didn't prepare, had migraines, didn't prepare. Jonathan, can you come on my podcast? Sure. And we just rambled on for 30 minutes. And that's the rest of Trust Justice Alchemy. Yes, we could. Our mutual friend Little Honor as well. And that's pretty much it. I have a Twitch channel, Some Random Geek, twitch.tv/SomeRandom Geek. Oh wait, that's the end portion where it's like we found on the people who are. So I'll cut it short then. I'm a genderqueer, demi-non-binary man plus dude with he/they pronouns that is a narco-syndicalist, queer communist, and vehemently anti-capitalist. And so, yes, I can definitely explain why anarcho-capitalists are not anarchists.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess one of the things that I often try to get first is, like, what is anarchism?
Mm-hmm. So for me, I see anarchism is like, it's more of a philosophy, a way of doing things, whereas, like, it's not an end goal. There is no end goal. Rudolf Rocker famously said that, like, I'm an anarchist not because anarchism is the final goal. I'm an anarchist because there is no end goal. So it's a methodology, as it were. And you can see it as also a way of thinking. So even if we're not going to achieve anarchism in our lifetime, I want to, though, because I don't see myself. Yeah. Is we can still, like, adopt its thinking. And so I see anarchism as a reject unjustifiable hierarchies. And I think it's like even a lot of liberals can get behind that sort of thing when you explain, like white supremacy. That's a course of unjustifiable hierarchy. White people are not genetically or anything better than, like, everyone else. Same with sexual patriarchy. Same with, like, ableism. Same with, like, settler colonialism, as it were. And so that's where you also kind of apply that sort of thinking, and which is why I also like anarchists. Not all of them are Marxists. Some are, but they're at least Marxist adjacent, just like all communists and all socialists are at least Marxist adjacent, because Marx did have some good ideas about, like, examining capitalism and how that hierarchy of boss over worker is a course of unjustified hierarchy, because what the boss says goes. And they can fire you, and no one wants to be fired, because Well, in America, the international, I call America not America. I call it the imperialist corporations of white supremacy. Healthcare is tied to the job, so that's
Yeah.
why. So it's not just like, even though it's like a social relations of boss and worker, it is also systems that are like oppressing the worker, as well as like the CEOs and the upper class, the capitalist class, are have things like better. But also the state is another course of unjustable hierarchy, because even though I understand how many of my liberal friends or sock dems and dem socks have faith in the system as we're like, no, we can vote people out, so that's why we're the bosses, they're not. In practice,
Doesn't quite work that way.
like you mentioned on one of the other podcasts, from many people's strengths, I think, the Labour Party and the Conservative Party in Canada voted against a 1% wealth tax. 1%.
Yeah, these people don't work for us.
No.
They definitely work for somebody who has much more money than I do.
Mm-hmm. It's they work for all the people like do all the donations for the thing. A great example is that like something I did on my stream actually this Sunday on the 20th, but I'm going to put on the YouTube channel. Read an article of how the senator from North Carolina that won his re-election this year, Tom Tillis, slapped on a basically a SOPA style like bill that would make it a criminal felony act if you stream copyrighted material on like Twitch or YouTube or other streaming services.
Right.
And the whole reason that like he did that, and there's receipts of all of this stuff, a lot of media corporations funded his re-election scheme, his re-election campaign. And so you see it all the time, because what does the average citizen, even the average citizen in North Carolina, do they actually want to like streamers to be criminalized for streaming a YouTube video or streaming like a Rage Against the Machine song, streaming like a debate and something like that? Which, yes, technically you can't do that because they are copyrighted, and a lot of leftists on Twitch actually got dinged for like streaming the debates, as it were. But like, who wanted that? No one wanted that. The corporations that funded Tom Tillis' like a re-election campaign wanted that, and that's why Tom Tillis, like in the backroom deal, as they always do, slapped on a, hey, let's just add this to it, to a bill that's unrelated to this. It was a stimulus bill. No, it's a government funding bill that where the stimulus bill got established. So that's an example of the state helping capitalism, as it were, building it up, as it were. And another, to continue on to the topic of anarcho-capitalism and how they're all pretty wrong, is that also the state is, in the current state in our vision, was born out of and because of the capitalist system. In order to get workers to actually, no, not strike, as it were, and demand for like better rights in this war, okay, send this, let's get some police officers or whatever, what they were going to call them, give them a uniform, give them a baton. They're striking. We need them to go back to work. Do your thing. And that's how the modern day police force, in many different ways, came about. So the police force is like the violent arms, or like that's where the state is an institution that owns the monopoly on violence, because whenever they want the protests to go away, for example, they send in the police and determine that the protest is like illegitimate and start arresting people en masse, as has happened in this summer with, actually, if you research like the largest racial protests in history, 2020 comes up. So you're living in history, buddy.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like, I guess anarcho-capitalists, ANCAPs, or ANCRAP, as our friend Leto Honor likes to call them.
Yes, exactly.
They tend to also feel like, they say, well, the state shouldn't have a monopoly on police violence or violence. We should be able to hire our own private armies. So in a like, I always think of it as like, well, that fundamentally leads to like a form of fascism run by corporations, right? Like if the people with the most money can buy the most military, then they just get to run things and you don't get to say anything because they'll kill you.
So wait, these people watched RoboCop and thought, "Yeah, that's not the future I want."
Yes, that's actually what they think. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a great example of RoboCop, where even the police was privatized in that movie. Also, a great movie. That was actually one of the first things that me and John Brockman actually did, because yes, in the not this past year, the year before that, 2019, when we can still go out to the movies, I actually saw RoboCop for the first time. But so yeah, they honestly, and they don't, and the ANCAPs, they really think that it's like corporate townhood, like corporate towns. The corporation is the town mayor and the town city council, and they run other things. And you live, and you work for the corporation. You live in the corporate town, almost like sorry to bother you too. With like what was that living arrangement as low? Just like the great facilities where you have 3 roommates and a one bunk bed of 2 and just one
Yeah.
room. But that's Foxconn, honestly, and it's selling it like it's a life contract, and it's like you're an independent person. Yeah. So, but that but I think the ANCAPs really believe, but they will be at the top of the corporate headquarters, at the top at the board and stuff like that. So it benefits, or any, like they seriously say this, anyone has a chance to go up there. And you're a skeptic, and I'm a skeptical too. When my religious Mormon coworker, who's also conservative, that was interesting conversations. He would say, "Is there a positive chance there's a higher power?" And it's like, okay, yes, I can see that there's a chance and there's a possibility. How likely is that? Is the question.
Yeah, that's right. It's when it comes to the economic mobility. I mean, what is it? There's actually a name for the fallacy. I think that it's like it's the same fallacy that people think, well, somebody has to win the lottery, right? Like somebody wins it, therefore I might as well keep buying because it might be me.
Okay, first of all, I worked at a gas station, and no, there's not always a winner to the lottery. But I used to play poker too. At least with the World Series of Poker main event, yes, someone has to win it. So it's like, and I just realized that, like, wait, you have better chances of winning the World Series of Poker main event as opposed to a lottery. I bet that's actually true. Or if you at least know something about like poker, yes, you would probably do better than any random schmo that like enters that tournament or has $10,000, which is why you get backers. But that's another topic, because yes, I am a communist, yet I still love to play the game of poker. But so yeah, so back to like anarcho-capitalists and what they don't understand about anarchism. Oh, I don't know what they think anarchism is, honestly. I think they just really are. It's just like American libertarians, the right-wing libertarians, the libertarians, because like they just hate the government as like, I don't want an ID. This is the tyranny of have to have an ID or something like that. So I want to have the like freedom of not having an ID at all. And I'm just like, why does it bother you that much? It's like,
they just really hate the state, I guess. Like they don't, because they think, I guess, that the state is stopping them from being super rich.
Yeah, yes, because all those Pexi regulations and those Pexi taxes is all. So Cory says that like I'm a expert on like anarcho-capitalism, even though I'm really only like talked to like one anarcho-capitalist. But I did say to that anarcho-capitalist, this was actually before I found out he was an ANCAP, that anarcho-capitalists are trying to pay taxes. He did smirk, but
yeah.
But it's another common thing. I don't know. It's just like they take. I think that like take the libertarian of like don't tread on me, or like I'm my own person, as it were. I want to be free and absolutely liberal, and that's what they think in anarchism is, being totally free and being totally autonomous. Which, yes, there is some truth to that. However, it's the classic thing of like your freedom to swing your arm ends where none of my nose meets, or that's where. So if you're doing harm to others, that's the thing. I guess these ANCAPs don't understand that, or they don't care about others, and actually, they also think that business is good or profits is good. It's their capitalist first, and then they attach anarchism.
Yes.
Somehow, and it doesn't fit.
No, well, I think it's a fundamental denial in a lot of ways, right? Like,
Mhm,
because you have to stop recognizing the impact that certain things have on the people around you. Like you say,
mhm,
like if my right to swing my fist ends when it hits your nose.
mhm,
So, but everything that we do, especially like these big companies, like everything
mhm.
that they do impacts. They're punching everybody.
Yes.
you know, consistently over and over again, and somehow like the idea is that we're restricting them when we tell them that they have to stop hitting us.
But profits are good, and when people are profitable, all of the workers and also benefit from it. They get paid for their work and something like that. But it's pennies to the dollar, or something like that. But they get paid as a work. They and so a meme
Yeah.
that I've seen of like a yellow and black ball, that's in anarcho-capitalist flag. It's just a person, yellow black ball reading economics. That's it. Down below a red and black ball in anarcho-communist, anarcho-syndicalism, or any kind of like a red-black anarchism, it is economics, history, philosophy, and sociology, and like anthropology. So it's like, and that's kind of like actually true for me. It's just like I know since I started became an anarchist, I know more about the Catalonian Spanish anarchists in 1931 than I did before, like Spanish Civil
Right.
War. I know more about like the USSR, or a bit more about the USSR than what I learned in school. I've like people have mentioned that people's histories are reading that book, read it for a stream. I had to stop for a moment with how horrible those things that we did, and so that's where it gets things. Uh, you kind of explore more things, and that's it. Yeah, that's that denial. They assume that the economics is like true, or like they even I don't know only Adam Smith economics or Ricardo economics, but also to Milton Friedman economics. And
Right.
he even says we are not anarchists. They forget that part though, clearly, uh, because as they think that like no, the workers are paid for what they do, and they can't fathom, can't comprehend how wait the workers are exploited, but no, they get paid, like I already
Well,
said,
yeah.
and they think that like the chances for everyone to advance is the same, and they don't see the oppression. I mean, so far they think that profits are good so much that like it's. I re-listened to a conversation that my friend Noah McDonald had with an ANCAP 3 years ago. Humane Mind. God, I can tell stories about that guy. But he was a when Owen McDonald was bringing an example of the harm that the thing's doing as is like oil drilling as well, how it damages the environment and how we have to get off the fossil fuels. But yet, when Humane Mind heard about the oil drilling either in Antarctica or in Alaska, he just says, "Good,
What?
just yeah, good that we're drilling more oil. We need those resources and profits." It's a simple way to look at things as well.
Yeah, like like you say, like it's almost a like they have no idea about what the repercussions actually are
Mm.
for various things, right? Like they they don't seem to grasp that drilling oil in Antarctica, like that's bad for a number of reasons because of environmental impact, the continued effects of climate change. The fact that you can drill in Antarctica now is probably is not good.
No, no, that's good. That's a lot of good resources that are right underneath the ice sheet. That's good. It's like that was a serious position. Oh god. But here's the
Yeah.
strange thing when like I've heard from others when you go into like the right wing libertarian sort of thing, they want that liberty for like everyone as a war to so far as age of consent. And some of them are seriously want to get rid of the
Oh
age of
yeah,
consent.
I've seen some of that. Like, what is going on? Age of consent is tyranny, apparently.
Yes. So on my Facebook and like my YouTube, no Twitter, I asked people for your best like hot takes on anarcho-capitalism. People respond best to incentives. Oh, they do say that capitalists incentivize behavior that helps everyone, like incentivizing and like efficiency and innovations. They do harp on that. Actually, they do. Governments incentivize behaviors that hurt everyone, like laziness and corruption. Uh, so all the worst memes from like the older generation of the boomers and all that sort of stuff of like these lazy people. That's it. And governance.
Yeah.
So this is why they think they are anarchists. Governance is the biggest obstacle to the market. Monopolies only exist because of backwards, short-sighted government policies. The Federal Reserve is the cause of economic crash.
Hmm.
I made sure that's loud enough for the podcast audience because even though I already read that before, again, you need a tactical face palm or it's just like need a third hand.
Yeah.
It is like but it's strangely enough they don't seem to like be self-reflected as a word is because they will also be they almost like be like contradictory in a lot of ways. I have this like long post from a friend of mine. It's like, yeah, some of them actually would be pro-life. No, they seriously do want to like, control. They don't see it as controlling people's uteruses. It's like the religious view that is the life, that's the person, and they don't see that as being intrusive. This is a long post here that I should have like read beforehand. But I think it was the worst one that the ANCAPs that have. Oh, okay, so just a quick story about Humane Mind. I mentioned before. That finally, when a group of right wingers I used to be a part of finally kicked him out, is when this Humane Mind tried to say that the LGBTQIA plus group should add the P.
Yeah, no.
Finally, a bunch of right wingers finally kicked them out of the group for that. So it's just like, yeah, I don't know. This will also not always, but sometimes run in the same circles. Well, the conservatives. So that's one thing. They really are conservatives because they're pro-capitalist. If you're pro-capitalist, you're conservative. So they run in the same circle as like facts don't care about your feelings. But yet, I can speak from experience. There's another one, but a far right winger, dark conservatarian. Okay, so I can basically ANCAP because a conservative libertarian. Yeah. I was in a hangout where it's just like me, Noah McDonald, the only two leftists, and a bunch of like red bringers, teenagers actually, or young 20s or teenagers, and we're arguing about capitalism. We were arguing how like the oppression of the workers and how like they can't get ahead in times, they have to pay all those bills. Oh, that's another thing I'll get to eventually. Eventually, after the hangout ended, it was kind of got contentious at times. The guards servants and take out the scratch and said, "Fucking hell! Why should I be jealous of like my CEO making more money than me? Fuck."
Okay.
Tax don't care about your feelings, except that like his feelings matter.
Yeah, right.
And again,
this is a thing that I'm still having trouble with people who don't understand leftist politics. Is they still think that the reason that I think there shouldn't be billionaires is because I'm jealous of billionaires. Except that's not why I don't think there should be billionaires.
no one earns $1 billion because if you make like $10,000 a day, oh my god, that's a real good money. How are you able to do that? You make $10,000 a day, and yet say you live from like 1976 all the way to now at $10,000 a day, you still would not make $1 billion.
No.
One of my friends calculated for Jeff Bezos to like have the worth that he has now, and he lived from 1977, 1776 actually, birth of the nation. Poor choice of the word there, but not too far from truth actually.
Yeah.
He had to like make like 49,000 or something like that, a ridiculous amount of money for 1776 times. So factor in inflation is something like that. No one earns $1 billion. There's people. This is your challenge. Find me an author that's like sold 1 billion books, and then we believe that they got $1 royalties from each of those books. That's some one person who actually earned $1 billion through like their own work of being an author. But even as Owen McDonald would like explain to Humane Mind, this like debate 3 years ago. But still, that person kind of benefited from the system around him, because in order for the books to be like printed, someone had to like chop the woods and like make the pages, or like get all the materials. The publishing company had to like distribute to like the stores, or to do it digitally, and in order to build the computers, the coltan in most of our computers and smartphones and all this stuff were mined in the Congo, that has environmental concerns and also human rights abuses and child labor. So it's like, and then the ANCAPs, they don't realize that they're kind of like liberal in this way, and they only view of the individual as like, oh great, so I'm responsible for child slavery in the Congo, I'm responsible for all this, I'm responsible for all that, so I have to build my own computer, build my own roads, I have to chop down all the trees, I have to do this, all this stuff like that. But that just shows you that we live in a society, and we all interconnect with everyone else. And also something to like Jean-Paul Sartre said, I forgot how to do the French, and I'm terrible at French. I've been told not to pronounce French. So, but the translation is, we all murderers because we benefit from the system of exploitation. Yes, the country of America is a rich country, could afford to give more than just $600 one time and $1,200 one time for COVID, and could do like the single payer healthcare system. And yes, I am for all that, and universal basic income and basic housing and all those things. But still, I'm cognizant of how did this country get so rich? How did Canada get so rich? How did the UK get so rich? How did and so we are all connected in that sort of way. And that's where ANCAPs are not really anarchists, because they are so focused on the individual and the individual corporation and profits being good. And again, not seeing how the situation of boss over worker, that is self-exploitation, because they think, no, the worker decided to like work for the job, they can work anywhere else. And
I know that I've said this before, and I'm probably speaking to the choir when I'm speaking to you and my viewers / listeners, but if the options are starvation or work for this person, that's not freedom. I don't know why why libertarians, why conservatives, why liberals can't see through this. I'm not free if my options are starve and die, or work for somebody who's exploiting my labor.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I think it's so I had to like mention this. Re-listen to that hangout from 3 years ago between Owen McDonald and Humane Mind. Follow Owen McDonald on Twitter. He's actually awesome. Owen McDonald 8 as his one word. Is this ANCAP thought that like, isn't Augustus Pinochet what he was a communist, right? I was like, okay.
No.
I correct. No. Salvador Allende was at least a Marxist and a socialist. There's that. They would have done state socialism, and we can have that separate debate. Is that really socialism and capitalism? And I will say that at very least they're trying to achieve socialism and communism. So, okay, but Augustus Pinochet, military dictatorship. Oh, kind of like Stalin and Pol Pot. I'll give them the benefit of that. Yes, there have been some communist regimes that had totalitarian dictators. Yes. Yep. I don't call those communists though. And screw tankies, screw NASBOs. MLs, we can talk. We can definitely have a conversation. Definitely Malice even Malice did some terrible things, so did Lenin, but their literature I'll read eventually, and then we can have debate about centralized planning versus decentralized planning. Here's my concern: are people fed? Are people housed? Do people have their basic needs? That's what I'm worried about. Then how do we get there? That's gonna be like up to debate.
Yeah, like I want there to be no gulags, and I want everybody to get. I want this society to own the goods.
I just remember. I wondered how ANCAPs think about sex workers, because we know how tankies feel about sack workers. Is no faster will you hear we need left unity than when you say something in a leftist group, broad leftist group, where they welcome everyone for some reason. Sex works is work. You will get tankies to come out there and show their swerve colors, even though they're not feminists. They're anti-swerve colors and blah 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 blah. This is like, and it's just like, this is why, honestly, to me, left unity is not a thing. I don't think it's something we should waste time on. Coalitions for single issues, fine, but not left unity, because I don't want to be with tankies or bigots either.
That's right. Yeah, like there's a little too much anti-ID, Paul. On the left too. Yes. Like I don't know how they come up with this, how they detach the identity from the politics, but they do it. They believe in it somehow. So
yeah, it's like class first, like leftist is and that can be like a whole category for like when we come to like the foes portion of the show. So I don't have anything else to like say about anarcho-capitalists. Basically, they're just feudalists because the CEO, they want the CEOs to be the lords for the chance for them to be a lord of their own corporation town, and they will honestly think that like no, it's fine. I don't need a state. I will just get my best friends or hire some like a private security team to like defend the land, as it were. When they don't realize that's a tyranny, as it were. Having private the concept of private property, be able to own land, that breaks the non-aggression pact. It does. And they don't realize that. It's just like, again, it's fine to drill oil in places.
That's it's a like working in a and living in an oil field rich place. It's a weird kind of dichotomy, or like weird way of thinking about it that exists. The oil belongs to the province, say. And yet, so that's everybody. That's all of us, right? But yet, so we sell it to the companies for whatever X number of dollars per cubic meter is how we measure oil. And then they go and they sell it for market value. So everybody recognizes that our province owns the oil first.
Yes.
But then they don't, like, they can't connect that to like socialism or communism or like community ownership of the means of production.
Because, and this is how some man camps think, it's again total misunderstanding of socialism and communism. They honestly think it's tyranny because how can you make sure that everyone owns everything equally? And it's just like, we're not interested in that. But the land should not be owned because no one used to own the land. It wasn't on our continent. You're in Canada, and I'm in like Washington State in the U.S. I'm on the Dumawash land. I did actually find out like who land am I on? The Dumawash, which is not a recognized tribe in the North in America actually right now.
Oh, is
even though the chief of Seattle's named after their chief, so Seattle's named after their chief, and yet they're still not a recognized tribe. So that's the whole thing. But yet they never had a concept of owning land. It wasn't until the white people, well, not the first white people, there were explorers, as Joey the indigenous heretics explained, but then the colonizers came, manifest destiny, and to be able to own land. Hey, let's trade some beads, why not? And now we own the island of Manhattan. And it's just like, so the ANCAPs don't understand communism in that regard. As how it's like, no, we do not want to like actually evenly divide, like you get this land, you get this land, you get this land, you get this land. No, we all share things communally. And so if I'm farming on this section of land, I happen to not be using that sort of like, so we can farm there. Hey, let's work together, community farm and stuff like that. But they think it's like, but I'm not using my kitchen right now, so someone can just come in and then start using the kitchen. And it's like, no, because that person if he doesn't have a kitchen or doesn't have a home, that's a need you need to fill. So from each
Yeah.
according to your ability, if you build a house, build him a house or build him a kitchen.
Yeah.
And to each according to their need, he needs a kitchen. So it's like you can still range just like, okay, yeah, I'll let you borrow the kitchen. Just make sure to clean up after yourself, do the dishes or something like that, or don't leave a mess in it as well. Or build him the kitchen. So that way, no, you're not using the kitchen, so I get to use it. That's not so yeah. And this is why ANCAPs are not real anarchists, because most anarchists are well, they're not anarchists. And most anarchists are at least socialists, if not like communists as well. There's market socialists, market anarchists, and mutualists, and that's fine, actually. I'm still not on the whole money thing, but people are not ready for a monolith society right now. So sure, mutualist is transition period. That can work. We can work with that. And so long as people's basic needs are taken care of, then we'll work on the other things, because anarchism is constant work in progress as well.
Yeah, I was in a big discussion a while back, and one of the main things I said about why ANCAPs aren't anarchists is that because we don't believe in unjustifiable hierarchy.
Mm-hmm.
But they literally believe that if you have more money, then you are better than people.
Oh, yes.
So they worship those who have more. They want to get into that position. And that's an unjustifiable hierarchy. You can't say that makes any sense. And still, so they're not anarchists as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I agree. They're not anarchists. It's like, and speaking of like libertarians, as I mentioned, libertarian used to be a left-wing word. So like the first use of it was in 1857. I forgot the French poet's name at the top of my head. But he was like, and he used that to like signify anarchists as opposed to like other socialists, state socialists as were, or the other socialists as were. Well, patriarchs for us, or just other like kind of bigots. So like Pierre Joseph Proudhon, yes, I agree, property is theft, but damn it, what you said about the Jews and women, no, we don't. That's not cool. And
you can't do that.
I like your writing too, Bakunin. But what you said about the Jews as well, I've been told. I have to. I've been told. I'm not sure if it's true, but yeah. And so they worship power, and it's like, who worships power as an anarchist? Who?
No, it's antithetical to anarchism.
Yeah. They're just like right-wing libertarians, libertarians that like they just hate the state because of regulations and it gets in the way of profits. That's it.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, I just remembered one final like hot take. Someone opened Twitter, seen an ANCAP saying that corporations are socialists. Close Twitter. I don't even know how to start with that one.
It's like they use words without ever looking at what they mean. Like, sure, they're socialist in what way? Like, how does that relate in any sense?
Yeah. I can understand why it's like tiring for some of our comrades, like some who have lived under spoons or lived on matches, to talk to liberals, because it's just like, even when they think social is a good thing, I see the liberals said like, thanks to the SoCal Fire Department that I saved my house. Thanks, socialism. And I feel like, how's that socialism? I pay the taxes and I go to the SoCal. Oh, okay, but the SoCal Fire Department, do they only control the means of production? That's where just like, because social services, good thing, yes, and good thing to have a fire department not be privately owned, because private fire departments would be bad. But I guess ANCAPs want that. You have to pay to save your house. Profit's good, I guess. But social service is not equal to socialism, so so it is tiring to always have like this conversation of what do words mean. So yeah.
Yeah, far too common. It is the opinion that the government does stuff equals socialism. That's not. I don't know where that has started, but that doesn't work. That's not what that means.
It was written in a book somewhere. So it wasn't in this words, but basically to sum up to communism government does everything. Socialism, government does most things. Capitalism, government does some things. Anarchism, no government. So that's
Yeah.
how the ANCAPs think that they're anarchists,
Right.
because they are all for, the no government thing, but the profit's still good.
Yeah.
And when you try to explain that, like, no, profits are bad because they're extraction of like the surplus value from the workers and all that stuff, they can't fathom that, because they are conservative and they believe in what Edmund Burke believes about value is not created when the worker takes their labor and puts their time into take raw materials and turn it into a chair. Take a wood, turn it into a chair, or take a sheet of metal, turn it into a Tesla. Because yes, you can try and throw money at like a tree all day long and scream investment, investment. It's
Yeah.
not going to turn into a chair. However, ANCAPs really believe, like Edmund Burke did, that is at the last stage of the process, when the buyer buys the chair, that's when the value happens. There's no value unless the chairs get sold. Then the buyer bestows value onto the chair, and they will believe that you never get a raw deal, or you never get like a great deal. No, it's all equal. Price and value is the same, and it's just like, oh god, no, they own some monopolies and
Yeah.
all that stuff.
It's another misunderstanding of the interconnectedness of everything, right?
Mhm.
Like, okay, yes, financially, by dollars and cents, sure, there's a value at the end at the market level, but that wood came from somewhere. The times came from somewhere. That person who built it needs to eat, needs a place to live. Like this, you cannot remove those things from the end price.
No, you can't. Yeah.
And like you say, like even Milton Friedman knew that when he was writing about, like, I think he's full of shit, but he knew that these things were all interconnected and that economics was some odd machine of all of it together, right?
Yeah.
But ANCAPs, like, they don't even understand economics.
They claim to, but they don't understand it. And I can go on a whole thing about economics anyway. I don't agree with the base assumption of economics either.
No, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, they assume that every individual will just always think objectively.
Yeah.
This is where the NCAPs also fall into like the facts don't care about your feelings crowd. And so they will always make the best decision to do things more profitable. And to which one ANCAP says, I can't retire until like I'm 69. That's too late for me. That's too far ahead for me. I need to like save more money, so I won't eat this tonight. They will literally set money aside and starve themselves just so they have like a safety net or an investment fund or a nest egg and so on. And they can't understand. It's like, no, that's a bad thing. People should be able to eat. It's like, but you have to work to it.
I should not have to choose between eating and paying my rent and saving for retirement. This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know why anybody would continue to fight for this system.
Temporary embarrassed millionaires. It's just like in the Futurama. Fry, you're not rich. Well, I'm not now, but in future I could be. And when I do, you better watch out.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I forgot who said it. It's like credited between two different people, but like America is never going to embrace socialism because they all think that they are not the exploited proletariat. They are instead temporarily embarrassed millionaires, and that speaks to ANCAPs as well.
Yeah, that's right. They think that they're actually the owning class. They just aren't at that point yet.
Mm-hmm. And it's not exploited as well because everyone has the chance to do that. We already got over that. And so, like,
yeah, it's not true. It's just not true.
No.
Okay. It is almost 45 minutes into the show, so we will do counter propaganda.
Yeah.
What do you want to cover for counter propaganda? What needs debunking in your eyes?
And I didn't understand the counterpart counter thing when you asked me to do that, so I just like gave a vague general, like, as we talked about before, the misinformation or how people are misinformed, like anarchism. Some people like are fine with the no unjustifiable hierarchies, but you say no government, that's where you lose me. They don't understand. It's like, no, you can have governance without government.
Yes.
And even if I try to explain to people, we have delegates if we need like some kind of like formation of like a organization for like a to have anarchism throughout a large spread thing, and then it's kind of like, well, that just sounds like representative democracy. No, we can recall the delegates,
Yes.
and they're
There's
delegates, not representatives. They don't make laws. We make the laws. They just gather the information, bring back to us, and then we'll decide on the laws, as it were, and then bring it back to them, and then like that votes will happen, and
yeah.
there also vote for everyone. And also, if the delegates, or if they have some position of authority that we all vote on, sorry for hitting my mic, they can still be recalled at any time. That's
Yeah.
the key thing. Is
Yeah.
how this election of Joe Biden, which had need to happen because we need to stop the seven bleeding. And yes, Trump will kill more people if he was still in office. But
Yeah.
effectively, the best reason to vote for Joe Biden was to recall Trump. So I think liberals should be behind the idea of being able to recall politicians at any time if they done something like slap an unnecessary like the felony streaming in bill to like a stimulus package.
Yeah.
So and that's another thing I wanted to just like generally debunk is like no, anarchists do build roads because how roads are built right now is either the CEO of a president wants to build roads until he funds people to build a road, or the state, they decide we'll build a road here, or not build a road, or not fill in the potholes. Oh, it's not in the budget, that sort of thing. And so anarchism is simply, okay, let's just remove those people from the top. This decision is made from everyone here. That's
Yeah.
like, hey, there's a pothole. Let's fill it in. Does anyone know how to do that? Oh yeah, let's work together. Like we'll work something out to like do a trade, or I'll do something for you as you fill in the pothole. Or hey, let's all build a road. The decision making process, it happens with everyone at the bottom. There's no people at top because we're
Yeah.
all one class. Socialism, communism, classless society.
Yeah, that's right. That's I think that is the idea that anarchism still can have governance
Mhm.
is really foreign to a lot of people, like, because, and I think it's because of libertarians or ANCAPs, because they've perpetuated this idea that no government is like, or small government is what means anarchism, right?
Mhm.
They want and they perpetuate the idea of a society without a government. But
Mhm.
what we actually want is a government that, is run by the people, not run by a few select individuals that,
Mhm.
sure, yeah, maybe we elected them, but they do whatever the fuck they want.
Pretty much.
So
Here's an example. I just realized this because sometimes I work with like Planned Parenthood or other like local activist groups and NGOs, and sometimes, and in order to win a city council or state representative, state house, and something like that, and just true for the congressionals, but like they will at this time. This is where we're going to like have open the floor to the discussion of this bill, even if they did that. Because sometimes, again, even if there's no discussion or it never moves on the committee or never gets like moved to a vote, sometimes they'll still slap a bill on the backroom deal onto a stimulus bill or to the port security bill whatsoever. It happens before, happens all the time. But if there's discussion of the bill, at what time is it? It's 10 a.m. on a Monday. And for state capitals, does anyone within like what 3 days notice can take time off of work and go all the way to whatever you say capital is,
yeah,
which could be right next door, could be not too by, or all the way across the other side of the mountains, and be there and said, okay, this is why I think this bill sucks, and blah 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 blah. And even then, which is what some liberals don't understand yet, they can understand it when it's the conservatives or Republicans or the proto-fascists, honestly, that's they won't listen to you. But they have faith that the Democrats will listen to us. I'm an anarcho-syndicalist communist. Will they listen to me and say, can we abolish the idea of private property and get rid of landlordism? When some of those representatives, like Nancy Pelosi, are landlords themselves. Yeah, I don't. Only the only socialists would represent me, and I only know of like one city council member in Seattle, and I actually don't live in Seattle, so she doesn't represent me.
Right? Yeah. I've even heard like and encountered many non-elected liberal types who say things like, "Why would anybody listen to the anarchists?" So of course, we can go and we can speak our minds in various places, but the government isn't going to listen to us in the state that it's in right now, right? Like there is no there is no democracy for us per se.
Yes. I mean, it's like democracy is like the root meaning of that in Latin term. That prefix is that rule, right? And then like demo means people, so democracy is people rule, as opposed to monarchy, which is one ruler, and anarchy are no ruler, and no anarchy ruler. So there you go. That's what anarchy means, no ruler. Yet if you have a boss, they're kind of like a ruler. Again, why ANCAPs are like not anarchists.
Yep.
But democracy is the people rule. But in representative democracy, it's really the representatives rule. Basically, why America calls our system a democracy is that we're used to calling it democracy, so that's why. I think that's what they're hoping, that we'll get used to, like $600 to be a stimulus check. That's a stimulus check of $600, even though it's not going to stimulate the economy whatsoever.
All right. Yeah. So that sounds like what did we debunk? Government. Anarchists don't believe in eliminating all governance. That's we just want to change the way it's done.
Mm-hmm.
All right, foes and comrades.
Okay, so I didn't know. Did we do just like one foe and one comrade, or do we do?
You can do whatever you want.
So because like when I think about foes, I got so many people list, but I think I'll just like start it. Let's just keep it to one, and something that one I can easily prove. Tulsi Gabbard.
Yes,
is
definitely a foe.
Because I've heard. I think. I heard from others, like from people in alternative media, that like praise Tulsi Gabbard for this and that thing, stuff like that. Well, not too recently. I think she's a congresswoman from Hawaii, if I'm correct. But like she did ran in the primary this one, and that was, I think she was the anti-American intervention. Anyway, but the point is that like she recently proposed a bill protect sports.
Yes, which is code for
kick trans women and trans people out of sports. And it's just like, no one learns. Even that high school wrestler in Texas, he's a trans man. So and been on testosterone for over a year. And if that's what, but the school district in Texas says, nope. You only compete in sports tied to your assigned gender at birth.
Yeah.
So, and that trans man's like, no, I've been on testosterone for over a year. I want to be compete against other men. And then and then want to compete in the women's sports and end up dominating the women's field as a trans man. So it's kind of like, no. So
because they're not a woman. They're not that's the wrong side of the sport for them, right? Like a trans man should be competing against men, but because that's what they're training for, and that's what they're when they're going to work in. But
yeah, and I'm actually non-binary or genderqueer, so it's just like, and then that's a whole discussion. It's like, okay, where the non-binary and genderqueer people, or like people who are neutral, where do they fit in? And I don't know what's a good answer for that, because like then we'll have to like ask like, well, why do we have these gender separation things anyway? but still, no, fuck screw Chelsea Gabbard for being a transphobe. And I just
Yep.
remembered, like, recently, J.K. Rowling also wrote that long essay. I don't care what she says. If she's still a bigot, if she still, like, hates trans people, Karen Rowling is still a transphobe. It's just like, wake me up when she actually changes her mind.
Is that actually what the K stands for?
And that's what I'm using it
for. That's awesome.
Okay.
God damn it, Karen.
Yes. So, comrades.
Victory. Good work, comrades.
I think I'll stick to one, the Indigenous Anarchist Federation. It's a group of people. They have a website. It's the iaf-fai.org. Great resources for like a bunch of the articles. But what I like is that they have a like skills for revolutionary survival, and they already done like a 7 as it were. And so they talk about a lot of these things, like what to do in these kind of situations, and like almost like the Socialist Rifle Association is where like training to be like firearms. Because yes, believe it or not, you go far left enough, you get your guns back. But it's called responsible. It's like, and it's more skills of survival. And they're indigenous. They have a Twitter as well. I think it's it is like IAF_FAI. That's their at. What did they say? I forgot what they say. They said something really good where they like finding repression is like open it up. Okay. Well, Black Lives Matter. That's what they say in the banner. But tear down this system that's built on stolen lives and stolen land. So, I'm a settler. I'm white. Even though I do have a family member that's actually from a recognized tribe, Potawatomi, but it's like it's a great uncle. It's proven. No, I have talked to my great aunts and great uncles, and they said, "Oh yeah, we know this person." So it's not like a legend, as it were. It's not. I'm not 1%. I'm 1/32, so it still doesn't matter. I'm still white. I'm still a settler. So
right.
It's for the land back sort of thing. I'm looking into it. I'm ambitious. I should know what I can do as a white settler for the thing. But the revolution, like the Black Lives Matters, that's going to be led by the people who face the oppression the most. And I will listen to them and I'll follow them. So that's my comrade, the Indigenous Anarchist Federation, because they're anarchists, they're comrades, but they provide good resources for a lot of things. I would love to like read their articles, but I'm not sure if like Twitch like is okay with some of the like firearm sort of discussion in TOS. I'll have to like skip that one and say this is all hypothetical, this is all theoretical, as it were.
Yeah, that's right. It's all theoretical. All right. Yeah. Well, thank you for joining me, and thanks for talking to me about ANCAP crap.
They're just feudalists.
They're feudalists, exactly. Where can people find you on the internet?
Well, that's a good question, because how did Cory Johnson just find Some Random Geek? They're everywhere on the internet.
There's lots, eh?
That's why I chose the title, actually. So, like, no, I'm no authority. I'm just Some Random Geek. But you can find me on Twitter, Some Random Geek. That's 3 E's instead of E's for geek. Someone else had the Some Random Geek with the E's in it, so that's why I have 3's in it. I am on YouTube, Some Random Geek, again with like 3's instead of E's. Just search for Some Random Geek and you should be able to find me. I'm basically, for my YouTube, I've done a lot of things. I've done movie reviews. I've done like highlights from Social Justice Alchemy, and then like I'm now just like re-uploading my VODs of what I do on Twitch, and that's another place where you can find me. Twitch.tv/Some Random Geek. I play video games, like I played Ikenfell earlier, a great game. I love it. The wholesome, queer, no cishet characters in Ikenfell, and it's a tactical RPG. I love it. So twitch.tv/Some Random Geek. I am part of another podcast, Social Justice Alchemy, with our friends Lieutenant Arno, but also John Brockman, Mehmet, Tom McDonald, Phoenix, Jamie J, and Isaiah. Occasionally, a group of riggers. We just sit around and BS and talk about whatever. It could be like what happened in the news, could be about politics, could be about anarchism, communism, socialism. I come sometimes bitch about liberals. I don't hate liberals. I just hate liberalism. I sometimes get infuriated by liberals, but honestly, no, I don't hate liberals. I'm afraid they hate me more than they hate them. Anyway, the only other thing that I want to mention, I do have an Instagram actually, but I don't really go on there, so I won't plug it. I do have a Medium account, but I only have one article up there. But same thing, Some Random Geek with 3's instead of E's and Geek. And I do have a Tumblr, so search for Some Random Geek on Tumblr. Again, 3's instead of E's for Geek. And that's pretty much it for me. I'll ramble on until Cory Constant. Okay, so yeah, Twitter's the best place to find me, but Twitch, YouTube, some Social Justice Alchemy. That's it.
Perfect. I think that's it for the evening.
Mm-hmm.
Have yourself a good one. Thank you very much for joining me. I kind of owe you a show, an appearance on the show because you're a patron. But also, but also, I thought you would be a good person to talk to about anarchism and anarcho-capitalists.
Mm-hmm. I try my best. I'm still learning, still reading. I try my best. And so, because I do want to radicalize liberals. And Cory, you're welcome to come back on our podcast, Social Justice Alchemy, at any time. We record on Sunday. So just so you know.
Yeah, actually, Sunday's actually my day off. That's the day I pick to have off from, I do gig economy work. You probably heard me say that.
Yeah.
And I work every single day except for Sunday.
Okay.
That's my podcast day. So I will have to join you guys again sometime. That's all, folks. Thanks for listening. Remember to share this show with your friends and on the social media site that you use the most. Thank you to everyone who supports this show on Patreon. Every dollar I get makes it so that I can spend more time working on this show and the other shows I'm involved in to bring you high quality content. If you want to contribute, you can do that at patreon.com/skepticalleftist, or you can send me money on PayPal at paypal.me/brainstormpodcast. If you can't contribute financially, then a 5-star rating and a review on your podcast app of choice or one of the podcast review sites like Podchaser would be great. If you want to find more from me, then make sure to check out my Linktree at linktree/skepticalcory. You can find all my social media stuff there, as well as links to my other shows, which include Skeptarchy, which is a panel show that I do with some very smart people, From Many People's Strength, which is a podcast about Saskatchewan politics, and The Feminist Family, which I do with my partner. My Twitter is at Hardcore Skeptic, and my Facebook page is The Mind of a Skeptical Leftist, or you can send me a friend request at facebook.com/cjbrainstorm. I accept most friend requests. Thanks for listening, and have a good one.